You are, and welcome to this study session for the ACP-220, the Confluence Cloud Admin, I think it's called. I'm getting all the names mixed up. I will give folks a little bit of time to jump on in and join us, but please consider your questions and what specific things you want to learn about in terms of the ACP-220. I've got some content for today, most around search and settings, but if there's other things, please let me know. About 5 hours south, Liz. Yep, it's just a straight shot down I-5, I believe. And welcome to Rohit, one of my channel members, a coffee sponsor. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. Frank, good to see you, my friend. What do I want? I want this one. Novi. Huh. I don't know where that is, but I don't know a lot about Michigan, Justin. All right, folks, we are going to get started. Just a quick introduction for those of you who aren't familiar with me. My name is Rob. I've been working with Atlassian tools since about 2013. I had zero training in any of them. I had to learn it all by doing or by just kind of fumbling around and hoping I got it right, which was a hard way to learn. But it means I learned some things really well and other things not at all. So that's why I do these study sessions. It's so I can learn the content and learn the things that I have missed, but also so I can help all of you avoid that same frustration. I do this full time, so I'll talk about different ways you can help support me. This is literally my job. The easiest way to support me is just hit the like button on the video. That'll help other people find it. This particular series is also sponsored by my friends at Service Rocket, so check out the QR code under my head. Just click on that link and take a look. They have a great program called the Crew Member Program for certified folks in Atlassian products to get part-time work. I do this to help supplement my content creation income, but it's a great thing. Sammy, good to see you and welcome from the community. I will talk more about the community as we go, but thrilled you're joining us. Good to see you. Also, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't. This will just make sure you get updates on my upcoming events, live streams, that kind of thing. And I do have a content calendar for the upcoming month, and I'll talk more about that towards the end of this session. But there's a lot more great content, but please hit the like button and hit that link to Service Rocket just to learn about them. A quick review from last time. We spoke about managing content. We spoke about archival and deletion. This one is an important concept in terms of maintaining our content, so please make sure you take time to go try to archive and delete things. It's important because as space and app admins, we will be providing a lot of thought leadership for folks and helping them understand how and why we should be using the system. And one of those things will be pruning old content. Archival is not just hides things. Again, if we think of a library as an analogy, we're not going to throw the books away. We just put them in the back room so they aren't cluttering up the shelves. Deletion can be permanent. It is a two-step process, though. User has to delete something, and then it has to be purged by an admin. So please keep that in mind. Both of them are a permission by space. So it's possible you have one and not the other. Most places I work at will give archive to most people and restrict delete access to only certain folks for that reason. But make sure you're archiving old stuff. It's still findable in search and linkable. We also talked about the content hierarchy. That's that visual representation on the left. Making time every month, every 3 months, every week to review it and update it is very important to make sure that it's organized. Sammy, you might have noticed in the chat, a lot of the folks in here have been in here quite a bit. So please feel free to jump on it and chat with them. There's also a Discord community I have where folks like these wonderful people chat about Confluence, but other related Atlassian topics. So just explaining kind of what's going on between Liz and Justin there in the chat. Now, the content hierarchy can easily get out of hand. Over time, as the space grows, you're going to end up with more and more stuff in it. And this will cause problems because it'll become disorganized. So make sure you're taking time to reorganize things. It's just like your office at home. If you don't take 5 minutes once a week, things pile up. And we also spoke about restrictions. This is another very important topic in Confluence administration and one of the most confusing and frustrating ones. View restrictions will inherit down. So restrictions are placed on content. The ability to add or remove a restriction is a space permission. So you might not be able to add these at all, but the term is restriction. So if you cannot view a piece of content, but you can see the space, you are restricted from it. Oh no. Sometimes my little cable, thank you for pointing that out. Let me find my headphones too so I can hear my own audio. Thank you for Justin for calling out that there's a problem. Now view permissions inherit down. So as we're thinking of our hierarchy, if something's a child underneath something, it gets that view restriction. Edit restrictions do not inherit down. So if a parent has an edit restriction, only Sammy can edit it. That does not mean that the children are also only editable by Sammy. Oh, Liz, thank you. I don't know what to say to that other than thank you. Now, today we're going to talk a little bit, I don't know exactly where this falls, search and settings. So I put it under space setup and general settings. But this is our exam breakdown. We are getting close to the end of our study sessions, which is crazy. I think they end right before US Thanksgiving. So please keep this breakdown in mind. I'm going to drop in another poll. I'm just curious who's considering taking the 220. And I'll talk more about, as we go, how to consider setting it up. I can't hear it on my end, Justin. I'll keep an ear out for it, though. But please let me know if it pops back up. This breakdown is important as we consider how do we prepare. For example, I will spend more time in access and permissions than I will in look and feel, just because it's worth more. Also, these breakdowns are important for us as actual human admins because they suggest where we spend most of our time. I spend most of my time sifting through access and permission problems just because it's the most common thing that pops up. All right, we're going to spend most of our time in the Atlassian learning setups. And we're going to start with personal settings. We're going to talk about these from two different perspectives. One is from the perspective of an individual. So as an individual user, we have a lot of different settings that we can configure and we can change. And this is something that I did not know about when I started using Confluence. The easiest example, or the one that always comes to mind, are emails. So notifications that we get. There are some other ones, though. I'll drop this link in the chat. This module was not part of the ACP-220 structure, so I pulled it from the rest of it. All right, thank you, Justin. So I just dug it out. We'll spend a lot more time hands-on in a Confluence Cloud Premium instance, but did want to walk through this. Everyone's got that little profile logo in the top right. And this is what contains a lot of great information. It's a menu that I typically forget about because I don't interact with it much. For example, you can use it to jump to your personal space, or look at tasks, or change the theme of Confluence. A whole bunch of things that I don't do on a regular basis, and it's kind of hidden up in the corner. But it's where individuals can access their own profile. And this is the basic information that is shared with Confluence name, department, etc., as well as our settings, which is really the important part and something that we as admins should really educate our team on. Because they will be set by default, and as app admins, we can control those defaults, but individuals can override the default and make it whatever they want, within reason. Now, we can go in and update our profiles. This is something I've worked in environments that have integrations with Active Directory or other systems that pull in a lot of this information and just drop it into the profile. So many times, Liz didn't know where the individual settings were. Yes. What I think Liz is referring to, I'll point out in a moment, it's hard to tell where they live because they're next to another icon that we as admins use very, very frequently. So this profile might be automatically populated depending on your environment. The big one is email preferences. I've lost track of the number of times people have complained about getting too many emails from Confluence or Jira or name a system, and they don't realize they can go in and tweak them. On Jira, for example, you can turn off all notifications except to certain spaces. And that's another related topic. Just a heads up, Jira projects are now called Jira spaces. So just to kind of blow everyone's minds, it's now just all space. Maybe I'll drop up a new poll in a minute about that. I'll come back to the current poll in a minute. I don't want to get too distracted. So one of the first things I show folks when they first join my team is how to go to these general settings just so they know they're there. And I encourage them right there on the spot to change these. What most people end up doing, Atlassian kind of puts this throwaway line in here. You can filter them in your email client. So if you're using Google Mail, you can filter out Confluence notifications in Gmail. This still shows up in your spam, etc. However, it's better to stop it in the source system than to get all this junk that just piles up. So you can filter this in Gmail. I recommend going to the settings and have individuals make their own tweaks. But by default, you're auto watching. You automatically get updates on everything you create, edit, or comment on. So this is one thing that drives people crazy. They'll comment on a page and kind of think they're done. No. They're going to get a lot about it. You also have on actions. So if there's changes you make, that can also do it. I usually don't do that last one because I kind of know when I make a change, I don't want to get an email about an update that I just made. To me, it doesn't make sense. But we'll explore some more of these right now. Yes, Justin, the term Jira Spaces has replaced Jira Project. All that's changed is the name. In the same way, issues are now called work items. It's intended to, in the same way we move from issue to work item, to make it broader and less specific, and also easier in regular parlance. For example, if I'm working on a project to improve our general ledger and finance, I would have a Jira project for that. So the project for the project. But what if I'm in customer support and I'm just doing operational work? It's not a project. It's called a project in Jira, but it's not a project. That was confusing even as I said it out loud. So it's now just a space. So we're going to see the space icon in Jira. And let me see if I can quickly find one of these. Oh, it's still projects in this one. Let me grab a screenshot of that just so I have it. Aha, mine. All right, too far down a rabbit hole. Okay, as an individual user, way up in the top right, if I click on this, I've got access to my profile. And again, this is information shared with Confluence. It can be available to other folks. Okay, I'll see if I can find, do I still have that button? Here it is. Yep. Sorry, for folks who are unfamiliar, the term issue is what they used to call a ticket in Jira. When that happened, I had that little pop-up every time I said that word. Justin is still looking for, trying to get me to say it, apparently. So this is my profile in Confluence, and we can see it's doing things like what have I worked on. It's got places that I've worked. This is intended to be somewhere that someone else could go look at and be like, oh, what does Rob do? Oh, I see. He works on this content. And keep in mind, what people see in here is also controlled by their permissions. It can have things like the reporting line. This has to be loaded into Atlassian, though. So if your company isn't providing this information to Confluence or Jira, it's not going to show up here. What can be more important on the left is this About section. And again, this can be pulled in automatically, or I as a user can update it. This can show up in different spots if folks use the Teams function, but also just if someone looks at my profile. Most of the time, this isn't something I care about because most people aren't going to go look at this and don't use it. So just a heads up, the profile exists. It can contain useful information. Most places I work, though, don't bother to populate About, but individual users can always come up and change it. Now let me go back to Confluence real quick, and I'll point out what Liz called out. with this comment. Up in the top right, we have this gear and our little head. Now, app admins get the gear because that takes us to Confluence Administration. And this is why I forget that my own settings exist, because I'm used to clicking on the gear, and that's what Liz is pointing out. To get to my own settings, I have to click on my little head and then go to personal settings. Now, these personal settings are for Confluence. The account settings are for my account. So this can also be confusing. People will go into the account settings and set them up and think they're done. Oh, thank you all. So to change my personal settings as it relates to Confluence, it's the personal settings. You'll also notice that this user interface looks like it's from 1990, because it probably is. But this is where individuals, sorry, let me get the zoom right, there we go, can change personal settings. You have to click edit to do anything, but you can do things like turn off keyboard shortcuts, text select and card hover. I honestly tend to just leave those. Most of the time, I'm showing people this email, because this is where they'll be able to change things like, are they automatically watching things? Are they watching blog posts? Let me click edit and go into these. But really the ones that can drive people nuts, there's an automatic weekly reminder if you've been mentioned. So people get like this weekly digest. You can turn that off. Same thing with recommended emails. So once a week, Confluence will crank out this email that says, hey, you might be interested in blank. These are weekly, so sometimes people don't care. This group here, the Daily Digest, it runs daily and gives you everything about those topics. These are the ones that people tend to flip off just because they don't want them. The summary report, I get this and I kind of go, receive seasonal emails about Confluence, so I don't care too much about this one personally. And then real-time updates. So these relate more to being an admin. So everything above real-time updates impacts pretty much everyone, but us as app admins should take a look at these and figure out if we want these on or off. Depending on our environment, we may want to turn on or off the public link information just so we know about it. But this will tailor what we get as admins. And then at the bottom, we have more specifics. Does someone mention me? Do we want that? If we're assigned a task. These can be dangerous to turn off, though, if folks aren't monitoring the system to make sure they catch their @mentions. So please keep in mind that this is, these can be a bad thing to turn off because you then don't get the updates. I'm going to speak to our poll very quickly. I'm just asking, are you going to take the 220? About a third of us said yes. More than half of us said don't know yet. A couple said no. It's completely okay. The point of this series is to prepare us for that. If you're on the fence, I would be curious to understand why. And I'm going to share another resource that I put together for the 220. I have a full-length learning course that covers it, but it includes an exam voucher. So if cost is a thing, this might help you. My same site has one that doesn't have the exam voucher, so it's cheaper. But if cost is a thing, that's a great way to do it. Oh, and I have one more person vote. 62% don't know yet. So these are the personal settings that I as an individual can set. This will override the default for the instance I'm in. So my admin has ticked a box saying everyone's going to get weekly reminders. I as an individual can say, no, 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 I don't want that. So I'm going to go into app admin now, and we're going to see, hopefully I remember where we can change all these. Configuration general. Yes. So we're just under our general configuration, and there's one thing that is really important to emails. We can flip off emails for everyone, like all emails. So I don't recommend doing this unless you have a very, very, very specific reason to disable all emails coming out of Confluence. But we have the power to knock this thing off entirely just by ticking this box. Again, I typically don't recommend doing this. We can also do push notifications. So those push notifications should be the bell and the mobile app. But you can also disable those if you want. So just some instance-wide things we can do. So next, under the notification setting, and this is also under general settings, we have more much more options. I don't have a custom email address because this isn't tied in. Doesn't have a claimed domain, but this is where I can turn off the recommendation email. I can just uncheck that, and then it will be automatically turned off. Now, if I turn them off here, users cannot turn them back on. So I tend to leave this on just to let people use it or not. And I have similar controls for Slack and Teams. So I can flip this off at the domain across the board level so no one gets it, or I can just let people do it on their own. Let's see if there's anything else in here. I think that's all of them. So I do spend time to make sure folks know about click up on your head, go down to personal settings, and tailor your own settings just so folks don't get overwhelmed by everything. We can also bulk control, or not bulk control. We can see everything we're watching. This is another common thing, especially over time. I'm guilty of watching a lot of stuff that I think is interesting, and then I realize, hey, I don't need all this stuff. So you can go through and either try and find the individual pages, or you can go into your personal settings and just stop watching a whole bunch of stuff all at once. And that's under the same spot, my personal settings. Under watches. And this is just a list of everything I've watched. I have 14 pages, apparently. What's all the way at the end here? Oops, some stuff that's been deleted. Okay. But from here, I can turn off watching just by clicking stop watching. And I can stop watching spaces. While we're here, tasks also appear under this tab. I don't use this tab all that much, just because I don't go into my personal settings. But this is another place you can find tasks if they've been assigned to you. All right, so that is personal settings. Again, not too much in here. I think Jira is a little bit more complex. But we as app admins can control some of them across the board, and then individuals can set them up. Frank is throwing a word salad at me here. Can someone please make up some acronyms for SPF? Oh, that's skin protection factor. I know that one. DKIM and DMARC. I think I know what they mean, but I would love some wrong answers for what those acronyms are. A quick coffee break for Rob, but please take a minute to check out the sponsor of this series, Service Rocket. Again, they have a great program for folks who are certified looking for a bit of work. And the way to show support is just open that link and poke around and learn a bit about the program. You don't have to do anything other than that. But if you are interested, definitely check it out. It's been very helpful for me, and it has allowed me to step away from the 9-to-5 grind because they can provide some work for me in the Atlassian ecosystem. So those were our settings. I guess kind of a leading question. Well, I'm trying to spell here. I'm just curious if folks do a new joiner orientation around Confluence for folks who join. I did this a couple jobs ago. I was the people systems specialist, I think they called me. So every time someone new joined the team, I sat down with them for half an hour and explained not only how does Confluence and Jira work, but how we use them. And I did this to protect myself. I was responsible for maintaining all of this stuff in Confluence. And so I wanted to make sure that my team knew how it was organized, where to find things, at least the basics, just so they didn't get frustrated and come bother me later with what I thought was a basic or obvious thing. Melanie does it on request. Nice. Mainly for creators and editors. That also makes sense in larger organizations. You maybe can't catch everyone, but there's going to be some specific folks or groups you want to make sure they understand how it all works. For folks saying no, I'll highly encourage you to consider, and this could be a Loom video. This doesn't have to be you sitting down for half an hour. But again, even showing them that simple, like, hey, go up to your profile and change your personal settings so your email doesn't blow up on you. All right, next, search. I included search because I didn't really know it existed when I first started using Confluence, which sounds kind of silly. And I sure as heck didn't know how it worked or how to use it effectively. But one of the biggest complaints that I hear is it's impossible to find anything in Confluence. And there's a couple of reasons for this. One is folks don't know where the search bar is, or they don't know how to use search very well, which is fair. Another, we can train them on that. Another is how we set up Confluence is non-conducive to search. And this is an interesting thought because we assume that the system will just be able to find things, but really we have to set it up for success. Our technical systems are only as good as the data we put in them, and our systems are getting more and more complex and sophisticated. But at the end of the day, if I'm looking for the word Confluence and that word doesn't show up in a document, it's going to be very hard to find that document. So we're going to talk a lot about this. Back to the training question, only use it for IT. So IT hires are given access to review policies, but not the overall org. That one's challenging, Justin, because you have, folks who interact with it sparingly, I bet. And Frank doesn't necessarily, providing that there is and you're migrating. So I'm working on a data center to cloud migration right now. I will highly recommend you put together some change management documentation, Frank, about a range of things. There's enough differences between them that people will report white space in between the header of a document and the first line of text and think that's a bug. So the more time you invest in that orientation and showing them things like how does search work, the less of a headache you're going to have later. All right. So search. The search bar is moved. It's now up at the top, and it's really hard to miss, which I really like. Before, it used to be smaller and in the top right. Very easy to visually miss just because it's hidden in a corner. It does track the more recent things you've been on. I clearly need more coffee. Excuse me. So it'll keep track of recent stuff. Honestly, this is what I use it a lot for. Recent things show up in multiple places. And so you'll get this list right here at the top. It's like the breadcrumbs. It's very easy to find where you were. You can just start typing in though, and Confluence will start to auto-suggest and guess at what you might want. So that can help. And you can also just search for similar things. The search is getting better at guessing and at finding things that aren't exactly what you're looking for, or not exactly matching what you type in. So we can see recent things. Again, this shows up on the left-hand side in addition to in the search. And I use this a lot because I traverse and I move through a lot of areas. But you should also definitely be starring pages. I don't think this shows up on the exam, but again, when I think of my users, what do I want them to know how to do? Bookmark things and find things. So we're going to pop into Confluence and just start tinkering with our search. It lives in this bar at the top, and you can just hit the / button on your keyboard. That'll get you there as well. I'm seeing some chat here. I'm going to let Liz and Frank continue their discussion. That / opens up chat. And one thing that they've changed, come back recently, you'll notice along the top, I can now change systems. It's going to default to searching within Confluence, which is great, but they're starting to unify search. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see this just become a Atlassian-wide search or a search for every system connected to Confluence. However, for now, if I can just type in a keyword, I'm looking for policies, it'll start to just show, hey, I found these pages. And it's going to say, did you mean something different? Yeah, maybe I meant policy. Sure. As I type, you'll notice that what it's showing is changing. So it's in real time updating its search results based on what I'm typing. So this can help me just kind of figure out, wait, am I on the right path or not? You can also filter. So on the right, there are some filters available. When was it updated? Where is it? Who contributed to it? But this is the basic search. So we don't know it, but Atlassian and Confluence call this the basic search. If I hit enter, or if I click on advanced search, I'll go to this menu. I don't use this all too much. I think they also, okay, no, it's up there, good. I mainly use this to find archived content. Now, archived content, when it's archived, is invisible to search unless you click on more filters and click show archived content. So this is something else I remind folks, like, hey, if you think a page exists, or if it used to exist and you can't find it, make sure you're showing archived content because it might be archived. And this is the value of archival. It hides it from things, but it's also annoying because it hides it from things. The advanced search is not like JQL. So if you're familiar with Jira query language is a query language to interact with underlying Jira work items. We don't get that in Confluence as an end user, even as a space admin. We get this advanced search, which basically is just a series of complex filters. So the type of content, is it nested under something? Does it have a label? Is it verified? Can someone in the chat explain what verified means? And I'm calling this out specifically just to see if anyone actually uses this particular feature. I'm just going to quickly go through chat to see if I missed any questions here because there's some good interaction. As a reminder, there is that Discord community. I'll encourage folks, if you're looking for more interaction like this, jump on in. There's about 300 folks who are sharing information, getting to know each other, building relationships and all of that. Okay, back to search. Frank has seen people appending white space to page titles. Oh no, to have pages with the same name. I'm sorry, Frank. It sounds like what Frank is suggesting. In this space, it should yell at me if I attempt to make another design page. Let's just try this right now. So I have to have a unique name. What Frank is saying is someone is just adding a leading space. So there's a space here. So technically it's a different name and they can publish it. Oh, good, it's catching it. Oh. So Frank, this might be a data center to cloud shift, but I can't save this. I'm getting that same error, thankfully. I'll add a bunch of spaces, see if I can trick it. Okay, good. So Confluence is trimming the term, trimming the white space off. But this brings us to the next part of the topic, which is like improving search. So I'm going to go back to our training real quick. And I forgot to put this link in. Liz has a point about Confluence query language, or SQL, SQL, see? Just to really confuse us. Correct, SQL does exist. However, I cannot get to it from Confluence frontend. Or if there is a way to do it, I don't know how. It is something that developers, Liz is a really talented Forge developer, among other things. She's able to access it through code, but end users cannot get to CQL to manipulate and traverse content. Okay, it was appending. We're going to test this live. This is now a trailing space, Frank. Right there at the end. And I'm getting the same, your page must be unique. So it is trimming. It's chopping off any white space in the front of the end, thankfully. But that is insidious. That'll be something else in your uplift you'll need to consider, because I imagine there'll be some kind of errors thrown because it won't allow it. All right, advanced search we spoke about. There are some things in advanced search that I forget about. We've got these special filters, or these extra filters. Liz, why don't we talk about ACL? That's asset query language for folks. Again, something that does not impact Confluence, so I won't go down that rabbit hole. We can search for exact matches. So when we type in a phrase, policy, it's going to look for the word policy. Now, we can force it to look only for a specific term. So in this case, the double quotes mean it has to have app space manager in it. If you've done any Googling and used operators in there, it's the same idea. We can force it to do specific things in this case looking for exactly App Manager. And in this example, without it, it could find App or Manager. In this case, we need both exactly like that, though. There are some operators we get. So we can do or, marketing or digital. It has to contain both with and. The phrase marketing and not the phrase digital. And then we can use parentheses to group things. So the phrase marketing or digital and the word content. I don't do this all that much, this type of searching with the operators. And I don't know if it's because I haven't worked in sufficiently complex environments or if I'm not in Confluence enough. But keep in mind that advanced search supports these operators, which gives us more power and flexibility to go in and find things. We also get wildcards. So if we don't know a letter or a character, I don't know when I would do something like this. But if I don't know the middle character, a question mark could be any character. The asterisk is any number of characters. So the question mark is a single unknown. A asterisk is as many unknowns as you want. And here's a interesting example, which again, I don't know if anyone would actually do this. Anything that has managed with any number of characters and passed with a single random character and contains article or post. That's a search. Again, I have not bumped into too many people using Confluence Search this way. However, we need to be aware that this exists so we can help our team if they need to use the tools. So we're going to pop back in and just tinker with some of this. Got to go to my advanced search. And maybe I'm looking for policy and vacation. So this particular search forces it to find the word policy and the word vacation in the same piece of content. I could flip this around and say either of these terms instead of both, and I get a bigger list. Adding the parentheses will force it. Maybe I add something else, either the word policy or the word vacation, and it's a template. So I can narrow it down using these operators. Again, I don't know how much I use them on my own, or I haven't used them too much in my own experience. I'm just going to drop another poll. Just curious if folks have used this. Yes, no, didn't know they existed. So curious if you have used these operators this way. Again, mostly just curious because I don't. It's a feature that I don't use as a benefit. If you have standard, premium, or enterprise, you will have access to Atlassian Intelligence. As an aside, I think Atlassian Intelligence, my guess is it will be entirely replaced by Rovo at some point. We're starting to see it get absorbed by or replaced by. A great question from Gokul. I hope I'm saying your name properly, my friend. The keywords should not be case sensitive. Oh, they are. That's... What? That is unexpected. Thank you for asking that. Okay, here I'll zoom in. So here it is uppercase. I get 2 results, 2 templates. If I make the or lowercase, I get 42. And if I make the and lowercase, I get 99 plus. That doesn't help, Liz. That is interesting. I would have hoped they wouldn't be. Typically, I write them in uppercase, Gokul, just so I see them. Like, I do it so I visually know where my keywords are. It's just a good habit that I picked up at some point. Now I'm questioning my sanity. Is that... Okay, I'll have to check on some things. I'll have some kind of follow-up. Oh no, Tushar, my friend. We had this wonderful thing called daylight savings in my part of America where we gained an hour of time. So 3 a.m. yesterday became 2 a.m. It's going to get darker earlier, but I'm sorry this messed up your calendar, Tushar. Um, Go cool. I'm going to go look into this more because I could see this really confusing folks. Like if you don't know it has to be uppercase, it's going to frustrate you quite a bit. Justin was told by Atlassian in a Rovo training it was getting replaced by Rovo. Okay. Well, if Justin said it, it must be true. Um, again, this is not surprising. As we saw at Team 25 Europe, as we saw at Team 25 in Anaheim, as I assume we're going to see in Team 26 in Anaheim, the big conference events, we're going to see a lot more Rovo in a lot more places. And I can easily see that becoming the AI. That said, we still have access to the AI if you're on standard or premium. There's this little Ask AI button. And all I have to do is type it in and then click Ask AI. And it's going to run this as a natural language search. So whether this is called Rovo or Atlassian Intelligence, it's going to go through and help me find information. And then it will do things like cite its sources. So I really like that it cites them. I can go see the exact pages, but it's also giving me this summary of what it found. This to me makes it more approachable because someone doesn't have to understand all of the, the logic and everything else. It's just summarizing what it finds. And then I can go dig in and learn more if I want. So that's the Atlassian Intelligence search. Definitely something, if you have access to it, let your teams know about. Just because it is so much more user-friendly and approachable. And in my mind, it is a great example of using AI. And Melanie got to my answer about verified. Yes. Verified is a content status, and I kind of chuckle it's in there. If your team is using the built-in content statuses, there's one called verified. Once it gets to verified, only the content owner or an admin can change the status. So the intention here is this is true and accurate and the most up to date. And so we can trust verified pages more than non-verified pages or content. I haven't met many groups that use the built-in content statuses. I know of many marketplace apps that help do that more effectively with more controls. So thank you for getting to that question, Melanie. I appreciate that. Go cool, no problem. Anytime. I'll see if I can get some follow-up over in Discord around that upper lowercase question. Confluence is trying to be GitHub. Oh, no. No, it's not. Oh, wow. It looks like most of us have used keywords in advanced search. Okay. Well, I guess I'm the odd person out. I'll take it. Okay. So that's how we use the search. As an app admin, we actually get access to search results. And I now have to remember where this lives. I really should have refreshed my memory before I came in here. Has anyone memorized where search results live? I'm going to quickly use my friend Google. Now, this is an important tool because it will show us where we can see all of the search results, or rather all of the search terms that people have used. When I found this, it was kind of like oh, this is amazing. Is it under analytics? I think it's in analytics. Yes, I found it. Oh, interesting, Justin. I won't dig into that rabbit hole because I've got to talk about search results. Before I dig in here, just another quick shout out to my friends over at Service Rocket. Please click on that link. Easiest way to show your support. Also hit the thumbs up button. Second easiest way to show support. And again, the crew member program is for effectively finding contract work in the Atlassian ecosystem. Service Rocket works with a lot of companies on things like data center to cloud migrations, or uplifts, or new installations, or support. And if you have a skill set they're looking for, you can join the crew member program, and they'll call on you to work a couple hours here and there to go work on it. So, site analytics. This is under analytics and just search. But this is a list of all of the searches performed in this instance. Now, to me, this is very useful. In this example, there's not much activity, so there's not too much to see. However, I can see that the word JQuil has been searched 4 times. One person is looking for it, and they didn't click on anything. So this is telling me one person's really interested in this phrase, but they're not finding anything useful. Here's a better example, JQuil 2. 3 searches, 1 person, 100% click-through rate. Great. This lets me know how effective people are at finding things. This is important because this will tell me, hey, maybe the term JQuil, it's getting a lot of activity. Let's pretend the numbers were different. You know, if there were thousands of searches for it and hundreds of users and a lower click-through rate, that might tell me I need to go figure out what is this term, why do people care, and how do I connect them to what they want. So this is something I would recommend reviewing. Only app admins have access to this. So space admins don't get a version of this just for their space. We see this at the app level under analytics and search, and it's going to detail again the actual things people type into their keyboard and hit enter. Here I can see someone working on these are the searches I was just performing. People looking for the ACE Atlassian community event in Warsaw, etc., a whole bunch of stuff. This is something to review on a fairly regular basis. You can also search through here to find if specific terms are being searched for. And you have some options for date ranges, like filtering it. But something I would recommend reviewing maybe every month, maybe every quarter, to give you input and feedback on how people are actually looking for things. The other way to do this is just to talk to people. You can't see it across a system though. So I'll talk to people on my team, or if I bump into someone who's complaining about it, oh, show me what you looked for. And that'll give me an idea of how my team is actually using search. And then if I click on it, I need to find this one. You'll get a little bit more like this nice little graphical breakdown on the right. Again, this example is pretty poor just because there's not a lot in here. But one search, 100% click-through rate, a nice little chart. And then I also see where they went, the most clicked content, and the spaces. Again, giving me a better view of how are people actively using or actually using Confluence, so I can figure it out. Now, the next question I had is great. No one is finding policy information. How do I fix that? How do I improve search? That's where we as humans have to spend a lot of time. And this is where we as admins have to use our positional authority as administrators and our knowledge to go help the team figure out how to make the thing go. So if I start noticing that people are having challenges with search, I'll go in and I'll point out, hey, this page called design is missing a lot of information, and maybe that's why it didn't show up in your search. Or the policies example. Hey, this page just links to a whole bunch of nothing. Maybe people see this and this doesn't help me. These aren't company policies. So feedback on search, knowing what people are searching for, will help us identify challenges. And then once we find something that needs help, and I need to find a good example, let me go find vacation. Say something like vacation policy, I'm looking for keywords. So this is, if you've heard of SEO, search engine optimization, that's exactly what we're going to do. Let's pretend that this page was really important to a lot of people and it's worth the time. I would want to make sure that the word vacation is spelled properly. That's a silly thing to think about, but if I misspelled this somewhere on the page, it's going to be harder to find. I'm also going to make sure that that term shows up a number of different places. We don't want to stuff it in there too much, but we need it in there enough so that the system understands oh, hey, this is about vacations. The other thing we can do is add labels. They move this to the bottom, so I can click on Manage Labels, and then I get this sidebar. I can click plus, and because this is a vacation policy, maybe I add vacation as a label, and I add policy. Oops, it's already there. Perfect. As a label. The labels have some impact on search. They also impact filtering and some other things. I won't dig too deep into labels. However, they are very useful for organizing content. Again, think of them like a sticker on the outside of a book. You don't have to read the book to know what it's about. You just look at the label and go, oh, biology or vacation or policy. So adding labels can also help search, both in terms of someone scanning or browsing, but also in terms of the system finding. And then I want to make sure that this page has things like links and is nested under the appropriate parent. These are small things, but they all add up to improving the search score. Basically, what Confluence does when you hit search, it does some math to calculate a number value. So I think it's between 0 and 100, or at least it used to be, that will tell it, hey, the higher the number, the more likely it is it's what you want. And the stuff that goes into that calculation, the number of times a term shows up, are there related pages, things linked to it or that it links to that relate to it? Is there a label? Are people searching for it and using it? All these different factors. So that's where we as admins need to recognize that there's a problem with search and then figure out how to fix it by doing things like updating keywords and other terminology. Whew. Okay, that was a lot. Questions, folks? Anything in there about search, personal settings, working with end users, anything at all you want me to dig into before I keep blathering on about some other topics? All right, quick plug. If you're looking at taking the exam, this course includes 5 hours of content plus practice exams plus an exam voucher, all for a lower price than just the exam voucher. So please check this out if you're looking at taking the ACP-220. There is a version without the exam voucher that's a bit cheaper, but this is a great place to go if you're looking at taking it. We are also getting close to the end of our ACP-220 sessions, and you can see I didn't... I think we've got 2 weeks left, or 3 left. But we're going to continue to be at 6:30 a.m. Pacific. Please double check your time zone clocks because daylight savings is either starting or ending. I always forget which, and there might be an hour difference. For example, I think I'm now 12 and a half hours behind India Standard. I think. I have to double check that. But between now and then, please, if you're going to take the exam, go schedule it. We'll talk about how to do that in our review session, but also study on your own. You got to get hands-on. You got to review. You got to take notes just to get it in there, especially if you aren't using Confluence app administration as much as other folks. But join me next week, next Monday. We'll keep working on this. I am also considering which ACP to do next. I'll probably start it in the new year because we're coming up on... I'll come back to that comment in a minute, Justin. We're coming up on U.S. Thanksgiving at the end of November, and then it's the Christmas holiday season, and I think things will just be too crazy to try and start a new one in December. So be on the lookout in January. I am considering the 620, which is, I'll see if I can find it quickly, Jira Cloud Project Admin. I always forget the names of these things. But I'll probably do that one. This is the one that I earned when I went to Team 25, managing Jira projects for cloud. So I'm considering doing this one next. But I would love feedback on that. And I do have an ACA series starting Friday on Loom Essentials. So if you're looking for more training, there's one Friday and other live events. Do want to thank you all for joining. Justin, I thought it was called fall because all the leaves fell off the trees. Is that not it? Thank you all for joining me. I really appreciate learning, and we're almost done with the 220, which is crazy. This is a relatively new certification, so I'm hoping some of us can go earn it and get it. 13 and a half hours difference. Yeah, I bet it depends on exactly where folks are, too. So it's what, 9 p.m. for you. Oof. But thank you all for joining me. Please hit that QR code at the bottom. Let the nice people at Service Rocket know you heard about them from me. Easiest way to support me right now. But also, please like the channel. True, it isn't. Check us out over in Discord. I'll just drop all the links in here. And yeah, let me know how else I can help you in your study journeys with Atlassian or honestly anything else. I'll leave this open for just a bit. Again, the next ACP is probably Jira Projects in Cloud. Next ACA is Loom Essentials starting Friday. Loom Essentials will wrap up by early December. It's only 4 weeks. It's a shorter designation. Liz, you are very welcome. It's good to see you, my friend. And a shout out to Rohit. I don't know if he's still in here, one of my wonderful coffee sponsors. Get some nice perks like early access to videos and other things. So thank you all again. Please hit the like and subscribe button. Check out my friends at Service Rocket. And I hope to see you all again very soon. I'll leave the chat open for a bit, but have a great week wherever you find yourself.